My name is Allison Francis, editor at Channel Futures and Channel Partners, and your host for today's It's 501 Somewhere. I have the pleasure of grabbing drinks with Janet Schijns, CEO and co-founder of JS Group and just overall industry badass. Welcome, Janet. Thank you so much for being here today.
So excited to be on It's 501 early in 2021 when clearly even I, who don't drink much, need a drink.
Right. Seriously, what are you drinking, by the way?
Oh, margarita.
Nice. Yeah.
It's gotten serious already. So yeah.
So Janet, you were just named top 10 most impactful women in tech by Analytics Insight. First of all, congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Yeah, so kind of taking, the awesome women in tech angle here, I'd love to talk about a few things kind of in that vein. I guess first kind of question is, how do you rise to these levels? Kind of, especially considering it's kind of a male dominated industry. Yeah, what do you have to say about that?
I'm glad you asked that question. And I have a couple other past honors, including one from Channel Partners for being Channel Influencer of the Year. And it is a male dominated industry. And that's why things like one of the top 10 women making an impact in technology was so near and dear to me when Analytics Insight nominated and then ultimately named me to that list, because it's all women that they feel are leaning into it and making an impact. So not just, although influence is critically important because it allows you to make an impact, this specific award was really around what had you done to impact your industry. And that's where I think how you get successful and get awards like this and rise to this level, to use your language, is because you make an impact. It's because you focus on something. And so last year, why Analytics Insight picked me for that honor and the other amazing women that are on that list is because we did something of impact. And the one they picked for us was, the world shut down. And in the channel, we were pretty used to going out and seeing each other a lot. In fact, I was packed and ready to go to CP Expo, right, in Vegas when the world shut down. And so a lot of people might have said, well, we'll just get through the year. We'll do some webinars and things like that. But I pulled the team together and took the brightest minds we had and said, look, you all have been talking about the digital normal. We've been talking about the digital normal. Clearly, the whole world has been drug into it in about an hour and a half. So what do we want to do? And we launched new programs that built hundreds of millions of dollars of funnel in the channel, and ultimately tens of millions of dollars of revenue for partners. That's what we did, right? Yeah. Including our social selling program, our SEO optimization program. So we went out there and just said, look, we're not going to take you can't sell as a reason for a whole year. And so how do we still be there? How do we still help these partners? And that's really, I think, how you rise to the level. It's not that you're, doing something that's necessarily so, senior title leadership wise, although I've been there too. It's that you do something that either captures the market's heart or attention or desires, or you do something that creates a true impact. And so, that's where, when you really think about what's happened in this past year, I think that's where the leaders really broke free. Prior to that, economy was good, things were going good, all boats rise in high tide, right? Yeah. And somebody took the plug out of the bathtub, and everybody had to figure out how to stay afloat. And so I think, to me, that's, I think, how you rise up.
Yeah. So you kind of take the stance, like, so there's the mentality that you kind of just like sit and wait, kind of ride the waves, again, to use another ocean analogy, but it's the people who actually like carved out something in the midst of the chaos, to kind of distinguish themselves. Sure.
And I love to tell stories. So here's an example, totally not in our industry. And then, by the way, I'm going to go back to the male-dominated part of our industry, but not in our industry. So cold weather climates, restaurants are in trouble right now because, clearly it's very difficult to dine outside when 30 or 40 degrees is brutal, right? And people don't want to dine inside. But this one restaurant owner in Minnesota launched a bring your own tent incentive. So his town said you can't have a big tent with enclosed walls, but you can have private rooms, right, with family members only. So he launched a bring your own tent, or buy one of ours. And he bought like a whole bunch of tents from like Amazon that fit 4 people.
Right.
And they have little, fold out tables. They bring them in, they fold them out, and they bring your food in. He is packed every night of the week. People are there in his parking lot in their own tent, or renting one of his. Right. And it's a cool experience. People are posting all over social media. There was someone this weekend that said they drove 45 miles to go to this restaurant, which is no kind of special restaurant. They do like chicken and wings and burgers. Right. Because their kids thought it was the coolest thing ever that they would get to have a waiter serve dinner in a tent. And so that was a leader who wanted to succeed. No matter what the obstacles were in that guy's way, he was finding a way, right? He was not going to be shut down. In fact, he mentioned that he had to hire another chef and hire 2 more waiters. So I try to use people like that as an inspiration. He didn't let anything keep him down.
Totally.
Yeah, and that brings the male dominated. Yeah, it takes me to the male dominated part of this conversation. So yeah, it is a male dominated industry, and all of those men are amazing. So I know sometimes in technology we have those conversations, but I honestly feel in the channel, particularly in this community, the men are there to help. And so when I think about the things that many of the male leaders in our industry have done for me to help me, from John DeLozier showing me around my first channel partner conference many, many years ago, saying, don't worry, you can hang out with me. And we were competitors at the time, right? So I think that when you think about, men kind of leaning in and helping women, I think that's how you succeed, rather than saying I'm competing with them. Absolutely. I think you work with them and see how they can help you.
Absolutely. And the channel is very much like that. I've experienced that as well. And, my short time in it, it is very much a, let me support you. Let me be your platform. Let me help you ahead. Yeah, absolutely.
It's amazing
in the broader channel. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's amazing. And, you think about guys like Jay McBain, right? Jay never is not willing to take a phone call. Never not willing to pick up the phone and say, what do you need? How's it going? Explain things. He's such a huge advocate. And actually his wife is in our firm. So they're a family affair. And that's how I think you get through things that are difficult. Whether your challenge is there's lots of men in your industry, or you're new to your industry, or you're struggling with a question, I think turning to your peers is a big help.
Did you feel that, with the pandemic even? I mean, that's kind of a rally, rallying sort of thing, especially with such a tight-knit community like this. Like, did you feel that especially when just everything hit the fan and everyone was scrambling and, kind of.
So when this all hit, I was so blown away by how many people checked in, how many people said, hey, does it hurt your business model? Is there anything I can do? And also how many leaders, channel program leaders, channel chiefs reached out and said, I'm going to need help. I'm going to need help. And we had a lot of channel chiefs who we helped this year to redo their programs. Because, they couldn't hold the partners to the same performance as before. They couldn't do the events they did before. They couldn't spend their MDF on the same activities as before. The world just kind of shut down.
To a halt. Yes.
Right. And now we've created a preference. So, I do think that, as we look at what has changed, particularly for vendors and their channel programs, the ones that were smart and early, said we got to change some stuff, right? I don't think they go back, because I think what you're going to see is people have less of an affinity for being on the road 50 weeks a year.
Right.
I think people have reconnected with their community.
Absolutely.
And I think that's both your local community as well as the channel community. I mean, look, we had people get on bus tours that took COVID tests and went out to see their channels vendors, together, and slept on buses. This is dedication. Yeah. But I do think that we're going to see that kind of return really happening as the economy wakes back up, and it is, right. And for technology, it's been a pretty good economy the whole way through. But I think we're going to see even more of a wake up in rural and suburban America, because we're seeing people move there. We're seeing people, this new concept of location independence, right? So it was called remote work when it first started. Now it's called location independence,
Love
because
that.
remote work implies that you're remote from an office you could potentially want to go to or
Right.
get to. And
Right.
location independence said, look, I may be in Florida a couple months, and then maybe I'm going to be somewhere else a couple months. Maybe I'm going to be in Europe a few months. I'm truly location independent. And I think we're seeing more and more of that, which is a boon for the technology partners,
Yes.
because it's more and more technology for remote that they need to get into.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to actually expand on that a little bit. I mean, I've had various conversations with people who've said similar things, but like kind of what's your take on that? Like how this has impacted the industry. Obviously, there's the hits people have taken, but how has it kind of positively impacted things?
So unified communication last year grew 631%. That's
That's
631%.
astounding. That's amazing.
Astounding. With most providers paying the channel double-digit commissions.
Yep.
The top of the market, 27%, kind of the bottom of the market, 18%. This was a big year. And it's a year it's going to
Yep.
keep on giving, because people are not going to get rid of those licenses. And most programs pay residuals, right? So the partners have built a very nice business on unified communication. And so the key here is for the partners to understand what's next. As there was a study in the Wall Street Journal this past weekend that said the average person said that they would work from home at least 2 days a week, even after the pandemic. And the median was 3 days a week, with a full 34% saying, I'm never going back to the office. So when you consider that, what are some of the next things that really take play, right? So it's dedicated video systems. It's us all moving away from the video, clip on camera, and actually having Cisco or Microsoft devices that are dedicated for video, so we can all have kind of studio quality video. It's enterprise grade network in key employees' homes, right? As opposed to just public broadband. It's security, security, security for all that data in motion, right? It's a big, big environment. In fact, seeing the growth of companies like Pravify, Fortinet, McAfee, right? The folks in security that are saying, hey, over here, take a look over here.
This is where I've been.
Right. And then, of course, mobility, right?
Sure.
So we're seeing 5G. Oh my gosh, the 5G battles have begun.
This is the
Five,
year, man.
this is the year. 2021 is the 5G year. And it's the 5G year because, it empowers edge computing. And so when you think about computing at the edge, I always tell people the easiest way I can explain 5G computing at the edge is imagine the airbag in your car. This is a device that needs to kind of have a fast response. So in the old days, you certainly wouldn't connect your airbag to the cloud, because you'd have to punch out, go to the cloud, have it make a decision, come back. And even if it was fast, it would probably be more seconds than you had to spare before you hit whatever you're going to hit. 5G with edge compute means that it can be faster than the response sensor mechanism in your car. So, and this empowers autonomous cars, right? This empowers autonomous cars. This empowers, an airbag. This empowers accident avoidance. It empowers so many models that if we start to think about coupling that with location independence, we start to see new use models. Virtual reality, augmented reality.
This is such a fascinating topic. It's almost like the technology is moving faster than my brain can handle. It's like some of the stuff you're describing is just so Minority Report. It's like
I know. It does make you feel, you're like, what? Like the genie's out of the bottle. And so the Minority Report, element relies on all of us being okay with technology kind of taking over a little bit. Mm-hmm. And I think that was the gift that COVID gave us this year.
Yes. Absolutely. It's such a great way to look at it. It accelerated some things that were already like either in process or kind of on the cusp, and they filled those needs. They filled those gaps, which again, incredible.
Incredible. That margarita's pretty good too.
Yeah.
When you have something, you might as well have something good. Cheers. Mm-hmm. So, and I think, the other thing too is the talent has evolved, right? So we had a lot of people, and this is a concerning trend, right? We had a lot of people where women, unfortunately, if you've seen the latest job summaries for the US, Women accounted for all of the job losses in December.
Yikes.
So women lost more jobs, men gained jobs. The net job losses were all women, basically, because the numbers were 156,000 down for women and 16,000 up for men, for a net loss of 140, all of which were women. And what happened? Women either gave in due to family responsibilities, homeschooling, location issues. There was just a lot. And then women are in many of the careers that have been impacted, service careers.
Right.
And so while I don't doubt that that will come back, pre-pandemic, women actually were gaining more jobs than men. So that was great. There was more women gaining jobs. I do think there was a little bit of a crisis from that we still need to handle.
Sure.
And maybe technology can help. I do think hopefully there'll be some societal gains that'll help women in what has been not a great year for their careers.
Right. Well, and you mentioned technology, that's again been kind of a pretty consistent industry throughout all of this and will continue to be just by its nature. So I think, you mentioning kind of that being the segue sort of, I think that's something to definitely keep an eye on. And I think there's a lot of good chances for that.
I think there is, but I do think, I've always liked to be introspective on the positives and the negatives.
Sure.
And the negative to last year was that, diverse, people of color, women, disabilities, they all experienced a much less kind outcome. And so I do think that as an industry, we need to keep digging in on that. That's why I'm proud of the work we do in the Allies of the Channel to try to help in the channel to reverse that trend, to correct the wrongs. I do think it's important. And I think we all learned a little bit of not only humility, but caring this year.
Absolutely.
And so I think that's the upside, right?
Yep.
The upside is our eyes are open. We have the opportunity to do something. We have the opportunity to make an impact.
Absolutely.
And I love that sense of hope that technology could be the industry that equalize the playing field.
Yeah.
That's my hope, right?
Yeah.
That it's the technology that finally gets everybody on the same page and everybody having the same potential.
Right. Janet, I wanted to ask you one last thing here. What advice, kind of circling back and just going back to the beginning here, what advice would you have for other up and comers?
So I always tell people it's 3 pieces of advice. So sorry to have 3. Nothing's that simple. So the first one is you do have to outwork everybody else. That doesn't mean you have to work nights, weekends, holidays. It means you actually have to work.
Right.
So you have to get rid of the distractions. You have to decline the meetings that don't make sense or shorten them. I always tell everybody there's no reason for an hour meeting, do 45. No reason for a half an hour, do 20.
Truth.
Right? Give yourself back time so you can outwork everybody else that sat on a whole hour meeting. So, really the first thing is you must outwork people, at least early in your career. You got to work hard. You got to produce more. You got to do better and do that. Again, you can't burn yourself out. You got to find a way to work smarter. The second thing is you need to be kind, kinder than most situations would call for, because at some point in time along the way, people are going to be asked about you, whether it's to hire you, whether it's if they want to work for you, whether it's they want to learn from you or engage with you or be part of your social network. And if you're not a kind person, they won't want to. And so all the skill and hard work in the world will go to naught when people say, I don't want to work for, work with, or have work for me, that person. So being kind to me, leading through kindness and generosity of spirit and always offering to help and going beyond, I think is important. And then finally, I truly think you have to have now more than ever before your own brand. And in the past, that brand was achieved in other ways. Now it is definitely achieved through social media. You really need to have a good brand, particularly on LinkedIn right now. You need to have a good brand. You need to invest in that brand. You need to consistently be posting high value content and keeping your profile up to date and engaging with people in the industry you're in or the industry you want to be in. Acting as a leader, sharing thoughtful insights that position you for the job you want or the career you want versus what you have today. And I think if you do that, if you work hard and you're kind and you brand yourself the right way, everything else will just follow along. And I think that's how people, at least in my mind, that's always been my success kind of little 3-point study.
Yeah, yeah, that's amazing advice. Really good words of wisdom.
Thank you. And you know what? Listen, I always say when you somebody asked me the other day, how do you know you've made it? How do you know you're a leader? And I said, you know what? That's such a great question. And so I will give the answer that when you scream forward, everybody runs in the same direction.
Huh.
That's when you know you actually are a good leader.
Oh,
So
love
watch
it.
for it. If you think you're a leader and yet you're frustrated that your team seems to be kind of floating all around stuff, it's because good leaders, when they scream forward, everybody knows, what hill are they trying to take.
Love
So
it.
yeah.
Wow, incredible. Well, you are truly, I mean, you are a very inspiring person in this space and just in, in life. So
Aw, so
it's,
sweet.
it's really, it's a pleasure to know you, and it's a pleasure to be able to work with you and, just again, learn from you.
Well,
So
right back at you. I learned stuff from, I think you're amazing. What you've done with Allies of the Channel, what you've done to solidify the channel around content, and keeping us all updated and sane as we didn't see each other, is to really be applauded. So I'm so honored to be your friend, as well as your associate in the industry.
well, here's to meeting you in person in 2021. So I can
Cheers,
give
my
you a
friend.
longer than 8-second hug. How about?
Oh yeah, a socially inappropriate hug is on the way to you.
Well, Janet, thank you again for taking the time to do this. It's been so wonderful talking to you, and it's been 501 somewhere. Cheers.
Cheers.